We are live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creators Notes. We have two people in the chat, including myself, so we're just gonna chillax a little bit. I'm gonna bring in the other graders, and we can have a little discussion beforehand, and then do our due. Right here we are. So here to my left is Kenny, the mighty Comic Head 84. Right down here, we see Genome Presents Kitty Corner, and nobody can see him, but he's just below me, and that's Roger, and that's Metarog, the mighty Metarog.
Mighty mustachioed Metarog. Triple M, baby.
So yeah, how you guys been since the last time we were on Graders Notes?
Isolated.
Everybody doing okay?
Yeah. I'm working from home right now. I'm digging it.
You like working from home?
I love it, man. I have my house built. My house is my vacation spot. I have everything I want here. So I was like, this is the one good time it pays to like make your house exactly how you want it, you know?
Hey, I hear you, man. I was like, they're telling me to stay inside and stuff, and they're like, it's quarantine, and I was like, oh, so that's what my lifestyle is called, quarantine.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're like, oh, social distancing. Yeah, I'm pretty good at that.
It's like, don't they know this is a comics community? We were raised on this.
Are you working from home too? Are you working from home too, Miracle?
Yeah, I'm not leaving the house. The wife's working from home as well, so I kind of have to. She has to be online and take up a whole bunch of the bandwidth and all kinds of crazy stuff, and so I got to work later.
Yeah, no, your boy's still venturing out every day. We went when they put Massachusetts in lockdown or shelter in place. We closed home for a week, but I'm essential. We're back at it.
Oh yeah, okay. So you're back at doing your job.
Those homes aren't going to remediate themselves.
Back in the mix, yeah.
That's okay, man. Like, it was nice to have a week off, I'm sure.
Yeah, it worked out.
Roger, you don't care. You're retired. You're working from home.
Well, I wasn't retired, but I was semi-retired, working here in the neighborhood, doing odd jobs, things like that. But now that's dried up, so now I'm doing some stuff. I'm selling some stuff, video game stuff. I'm refurbing and all that. But otherwise, the wife is the big breadwinner now.
Oh, it'll get better, guys. It's we just got to be patient, right?
This is the most comfortable pandemic that any human population has ever lived through. So, I mean, how bad is it really? Look at us right now. Yeah.
All right, so we've got some. Oh, did we lose you there? We've got some people here in the chat. Let me see who we've got on the roll here. Well, I'm not as good at this as Kenny is, but we got Chad, 90 Miles from Comics. He's in there. And Unruly Simeon, and then me and Metarov. Awesome. Such a good audience. I mean, we cherry-picked our audience. That's why we only got two, right? We wanted just the cream of the crop.
The same thought crossed my mind that crossed Simeon's mind, where he says, Roger is a kept man. Yeah, you know.
Well,
it's always been my dream.
I do my share of stuff, but she is the major breadwinner for sure now.
Well, and you know, when you got looks like Roger, sometimes some dame's gonna snatch him up and take care of him, you know.
When you're rocking the Sam Elliott, the women you gotta beat him off with the proverbial hockey stick.
But thank you for the ego boost there, Kenny. I appreciate it.
And hey, Chris Donaldson, I don't know if you spotted him, but hey, Chris, thanks for joining us, bro.
All right, yeah, Vancouver Comic Junkie.
Ooh.
I like the avatar too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Vancouver Comic Junkie. Hey, he's new to making videos anyway in our community, man, and he's got good stuff. He's like right up our alley. He's got like killer Bronze Age collection. So check him out.
Just subbed him up.
Him and I have been talking for a while, like probably about a year. Him and I have been together. So I'm super happy that he decided to make videos, because I know some of the books in his collection are just like, I mean, he's all worried because he was telling me, he's like, oh, I had like 200 books still at CGC. Like, he's got so much stuff. He's such a and such a smart collector. Trust me.
Just subbed up myself.
Yeah,
Now he's like making videos every day. Let's put them out there.
Hey, we got your man Stan in here. How you doing? He's got he had a little contest going not long ago. I remember. Good to have you in here, Stan.
Yeah, they're trickling
yeah.
in here slowly. So there's
Awesome.
another big show on right now, so it's probably gonna be a few minutes before we get.
Yeah, that's all right. We can get to action. So it's Graders Notes time, baby.
Woo-hoo.
What book do we got?
We have
The picker, yeah.
ta-da,
Dun, dun,
Snake.
dun.
classic Wolverine #1 limited series from 1982.
Man, they were expensive back then. Look how much that book cost. Yeah.
$3.99. Pretty cheap. So this is, of course, Chris Claremont, Frank Miller. We all know this book. This is the book that made Wolverine in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one to take a look at here tonight because it's very 80s, but you know it has some real highs and lows, I think, and yeah, it'll be fun to see how my Reader's Notes companions what their take on this book is. It's been a long time since I read it, so it's good.
Me too. Yeah.
I never actually read it.
You never actually read it.
Mm-mm. Well, they didn't have fax back when I was collecting comics, and this book was like $50 back then, so I couldn't afford that. I was like 13 years old.
I thought you meant you still hadn't read it. I was like, well, what are you doing on the show? Get off. No.
I should go pull my Wizard magazine, see how much it went for. Let me go get it.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people we got? 10? Those guys must.
Yeah, we got 10 people in the house, man. That sounds like a captive audience to me, brother.
That's right. Let's get started on this.
Yeah.
So, like I said, 1982.
Yeah. And for the uninitiated, we're graded on cover, interior artwork, the story, the writing, and the concept. Grades 1 through 5. 0.5s are allowed. After we do our votes, we'll kick it to the chat. You guys want the chat grade? Throw that in there after we say our piece. Maybe we swayed you our way, maybe not. Drop your vote in, and by the time we're done, we're gonna have a real good sense of what this book's about.
Actually, I lied to you.
Good
Apparently,
introduction.
my memory made me exaggerate. According to Wizard #1 here, where'd it go? Wolverine miniseries #1 went for. Hold on, I can't see it. $14.
Yeah.
$14.
$14.
What year is that Wizard?
91.
91. So that's like not 9 years after it came out.
Yeah, because this is 82. Now Wizard always did price a bit high though.
They did, yeah.
We usually went over
Closer to
street or whatever.
10 or
But
12, yeah.
So
Mhm.
this book came out on April 1st, 1982. So we're literally 38 years almost to the day that it came out today.
Uh-oh, we got royalty in the chat. I just noticed. I'm late with my banner. Give me one moment.
Hey, man.
Oh,
Mr. Big Shack did.
yeah. What up, Biggie Shack? What up, California Blend?
And Samuel David's in here too. How you doing, Samuel?
Indeed.
Awesome. I'm so glad you want to come in and take a look at this great book. So we always like to start somewhere at the beginning. Sometimes we mix it up, but I like to start with the cover. So we're going to start with the cover. And let's take a rotation to the left, and we'll start with my good buddy here, Comic Head 84. Kenny, how did you feel about what some people really consider a classic cover?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say it's a classic. Classic doesn't mean flawless though. Just means it's very iconic. This is the original, right? Her. One thing I always got to give props to Wolverine is that he's got one of my favorite trade dress titles. It's simple. I love that font, dude. It's spiky, as you'd expect for a Claude here or whatever. So I dig that. I've always loved Wolverine trade dress. Fantastic. here you go. Here's the main image. You got a big close up Wolverine. I feel like we're getting like Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry vibes here. I think it's a pretty cool image. I think one thing I've noticed from reading this and going through the book, but even on this cover as an example, Frank Miller knows how to draw hands really well. And like that's a pretty well done hand. So I think that looks cool. I was never like a huge fan of the backgrounds of these colors, the colors of the backgrounds of each of these. It just seems like real, almost like Microsoft Paint, flat color with a little gradient of another one slapped on the back of an image. So this is the best one of the bunch, I think, but the background I always thought was a little weak. Another critique, I guess, is like, I don't know what the light source is on this shit. Like his claws are blinging like crazy. So he's got super bling going on the claws. And if you look at his hand, it's like that's like a high beam light on the top of his hand and kind of on the side of his face. And I'm like, are the claws creating all that light? If so, the things are fucking glowing bright. So I think that was I think he made the claws blinging too much. And I think that throws me off. I know I'm nitpicking, but that's what we do here. I like that they went maskless. His own series. I think that Wolverine's one of the few heroes that you see him just as often with his mask off as his mask on, and he's still just as iconic either way. So I thought that was cool. Like, you get personal Logan story, so he's not fully suited up. He's got his face exposed. So concept-wise, on the cover, I think that was cool. But at the end of the day, classic, badass, make my day, Dirty Harry type deal. Well drawn. Frank Miller's not one of my favorite artists, but a pretty good outing here. And I landed on a 3.5 for this cover right here.
All right, 3.5 from Kenny. Yeah, you brought up a lot of good points there, and I'm sure some of those points will be echoed, but maybe let's take a little fresh take from the resident intelligento gentleman, Mr. Gino Presents. How did you feel about the cover?
I thought you were talking about Roger. So the cover, probably should take this out of the Mylar, but you need to be able to see this. So the cover is like, this whole book to me is like a lesson in duality. There's a lot of good and there's some bad to be had in here. Let's start with a good. All right, let's start on a positive note. Yes, I do agree. I like the way he does the hands. He's even got the Kirby-esque like square ends too. I kind of dig on that. Claws look amazing. Hopefully you ding him like you did McFarlane though for changing the shape of the claws just to get this nice little sheen for the picture. But yeah, they look awesome regardless, and they're not too ridiculously long, even though they may be a little bit long anatomically. They should go past his elbow, and he shouldn't be able to bend his arm, but whatever, when they're closed. But a lot of good stuff here. I like his expression, kind of the drunken surly, kind of a Steve Austin looks like, come and get some, bub, that's what I expect him to be saying. There is some interesting lighting, but it stays consistent. Like, it's on this side of his head, it's apparently on this side of his claws. Every one of them gets their own little piece of shine. And, of course, on top of his knuckles and a little bit of his face down there. So it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I don't know what light source is, like he said, because there's no background at all. So you can't tell there's anything going on. If he's in a city, he's got a car barreling down on him. You don't know what. But, so it's cool. It's an iconic pose, right? This is something that Wolverine would do. This is not like him just shining, or sparkling for the camera. This is something he would do like in a bar fight or something, right? So I like all those things. Now some bads. First seeing his hair really bugged me. It's like, did they use like a circle cutout for this? Because it's like perfectly lined right there. It's like not a stray hair anywhere. It's like, did he just take like a razor or a wall and just do a nice little inverted bowl cut there right before he took this picture? I don't know. This picture is a lot like my oil paintings. They're best viewed from a distance. When you get close to this, some of the stuff starts popping out. Like, it looks detailed from a distance, and then you get close, and it looks like it's not even finished. Like there's no definition at all in the body, just a rough outline. He does have some asymmetry going here, which is a pretty good thing. It's like a cardinal rule. Um, so the hands look good and the head looks good, but everything else is just like filler. It's like it was just added as an afterthought. So I don't know if he was getting rushed here or he just didn't really want to focus too much on the head. I don't know. And the purple color really makes it look kind of strange because purple. Oh, where does that come from? Wolverine. So it's like I know it's supposed to be a shadow color and all that, but it's that's a little odd. I do like the fact that he's maskless, but if you get even real close, look on the eyes. My camera's not focusing too well, but like even the eyes look kind of unfinished. Like there's not very much like the color. There's no pupil or there's pupil here, but it's just weird. There's not much outline on the eye, so I'm just nitpicking. So classic cover, iconic pose, and it really grabs you. One thing this cover excels at is grabbing the eye of the buyer. There's not a person walking past a comic rack who won't, even someone who doesn't buy comics, who won't turn and look at this thing because it just screams, "Look at me!" So, as far as that, it's a huge win for a comic cover. But giving towards a little bit of its shortcomings, I'm gonna have to go give this one 3.5. Much better than average. I wanted to go higher, but then upon closer inspection, I was like, I had to ding it. So 3.5 for me.
Let me unmute that and then try that again. All right. Thank you, David.
I thought
Some insightful insights. Man, I'm just full of it. All right. So we're going to move along to our next grader, and that is, of course, the only man that probably bought this off the rack when he was a teenager, and that would be Roger. Sir, how do you feel about the cover of number 1? I see you got number 2 sitting up there.
Yeah, I'm going digital because I thought I had number 1, and I did buy it off the rack, but I can't find it. So I found 2 through 4. So I'm going digital for the number 1. So that's why I didn't have it in time, because I didn't check this until about Monday, and by then it was too late to buy one. Right. So I'll just go digital here if you don't mind.
Brother, often I have lost comics in my collection, and they resurface after a couple of years. Like, how did this Wolverine comic get in my Batman run? Like,
yeah, I bet you it's somewhere, but I can't.
Go ahead, do your thing.
Well, I think Kenny and Genome, I think, I don't have a lot of differing opinion on what they had. The lighting is a bit odd. It almost looks like these 3 fingers here are metallic because of the extreme light on them. And let me just tell you a few things that I do, a few little nuances that I think are kind of cool. This comic story takes place mostly in Japan, and the claws kind of look like mini katanas to me. I don't know if that's kind of an homage or kind of looking forward to what's going on in the story inside. They're not the usual cylindrical to a tip that you saw in the Hulk series. So I thought that was kind of a cute little addition there. Like Kenny, I do like the trade dress, probably not as much as he does, but I think it's appropriate. Kind of has that, kind of edge to it. And I do like the facial expression. It's classic Wolverine. It's like, oh, I'm looking forward to this, which, in the story, it kind of plays out. And I like his expression. What I don't like here, this hand here, it looks like there's no wrist there. Oops, sorry, I hit the thing and it went off. Hold on. It looks like there's almost no wrist there. It's like a kitty wrist, and that's always almost like 2-dimensional on that left side, which has always kind of bothered me. It just it looks like almost like it's atrophied somewhat. Oh, wow. Especially when you see the length of those blades coming out, the claws, and the inking here on the face is just very heavy-handed. This looks more like a Rubinstein art than Miller art, and that tells me that Mr. Rubinstein was a little bit heavy on the inks, especially around the eyes, the brow here. It's just very heavily inked. And I think Gino mentioned that the body, it looks very blocky and wide and kind of not defined. Again, and that's nitpicking a bit. because it does take up a lot of the cover, and obviously he wants to give you as much Wolverine as possible on the cover. Otherwise, I'm not going to repeat what a lot of my colleagues already said. Very good cover, but the lighting is a little odd, the inking a little heavy, that wrist really bothers me, but otherwise pretty darn good. 3.5 for me as well.
All right, so that's a good score. 3.5 from everybody along the way here.
Can we get the trifecta tonight?
Trifecta so far. Well, I think you guys, had some really good points about the cover here. Let me give it a shot here on my turn. All right. So one of the things about this era and Frank Miller is that Frank Miller was hitting his stride, right? Like he really was. This was 1982. Frank Miller had been working on Daredevil. He'd gotten lots of praise for that, and there was other stuff that he was beginning to work on. He was one of the darlings of the comic book industry at this point. You guys mentioned the light source, like everybody pulls in that light source, but like a lot of artists will do this really hard light source in order to get like a more shadowy depth. I don't like doing it too much on my own, but I think rather than over ink this, it was under inked. Like it should be deeper shadows on his face, but he kind of wanted to brighten it up, I would think, a little bit, the inker. But I think where he did over ink it is this sort of hatching that disappears into dark blacks, right? Because that's not Frank Miller. Frank Miller does that very hatchy work all through his whole thing. He doesn't do a whole lot of deep black kind of stuff. And so I think the inker did have quite a hand in it. You mentioned the katana knives from the fists. That's always been my favorite. I loved it when Miller switched that to those tiny little katanas. I thought that was amazing, and it's been copied by every artist drawn Wolverine since, pretty much. This pose has been copied again and again with Wolverine with his claws. But you are right, Roger. That wrist and that sort of wonkiness of that hand makes Wolverine look like he's got his claw like right up against his chest, right? Because it's so thin and so kind of weird looking. So there is a little bit of anatomy. I do think that there's some over inking in parts that shouldn't be over inked, and under inking in parts that shouldn't, or that should be darker. And like the lighting source doesn't bother me. I like to have a nice hard lighting source, like to show that shiny stuff. I'm sure that's what Frank was thinking. This is my favorite treatment. It's a classic, Marvel Comics limited series at the top there. They used to do that all the time. And it's to me, I actually wrote down 3.5. Right?
Wow.
No, it's not Frank Miller's best work, but it's not his worst by any stretch.
Wow, Quinella indeed.
That might be the first ever on Grader's Notes, actually.
Yeah, the classic.
Unanimous.
Now it's up to
be unanimous. Yeah.
Now it's up to our chat. Let's see, how did you guys feel about this cover? Right, what is your opinion of this cover? Is it a classic Frank Miller, or is it an overblown, hyped Frank Miller that maybe shouldn't get as much hype as it needed to be? You give us a grade, and we're going to add them up, and you are the 5th grader.
And welcome to our new arrival homies, Stone Cold Steve Whiting, Comic Mag Musings in the house, First Edition Comics in the house, Collectible Paper, who this has been his logo for a long time now, the cover of this book. So well done there. Dave Enrique, good to see you guys. Shout out to Stone Cold for a fantastic AOK torpedo that was delivered today. Hats off to you, to our boy Unruly Simeon. Very cool. Check out his Instagram for a really great post. And cool. I gotta say, I never noticed the wrist thing either, because I've always had that stupid direct edition thing there.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's covering up a bit. Yeah, it's true.
I can't see it at all on mine.
It's a little out of proportion.
What is the? Any guys have any insight on the why that should even be there. I could see on a newsstand they want to put the barcode there, even though it obviously the gentlemanly thing to do is put it on the back. But whatever, they want to put it on the cover. But
Yeah.
when it's direct edition, what's the point of putting a Spider-Man head randomly on the cover?
I think because like these things are all printed. Yeah, they must have a reason
They
for it.
have
Must be
that
part of the
area
company.
already cut out for the UPC.
Yeah,
So they'd have to put 2 plates if they took it out. So I guess to save money, they just stick something in there.
right. Just print that down.
I hated the UPC when it came out in 1976, Kenny. All right. I
Yeah,
protested.
I'm
I was one of the very few who
I
protested.
hated it too. That was the year I
I
was
say, why
born.
can't you put it on the back cover? Why does that have to be on the front cover? You know?
It's like when you get a novel, a paperback novel, they put on the back,
The
obviously.
back. Exactly.
Yeah.
Magazines, a lot of them put in the back. But
Man, you buy a box of Cheetos, it's on the back.
hey, Scott Neely's in the house. How you doing, buddy? And Varangian Vigilante. I don't know if we shouted him out before. The big Conan fan.
Oh yeah.
Claudio Fonseca is also in here.
It's
Nice.
a man of taste right there. What do you guys? Whose decision do you think it was for the backgrounds, guys? For all this monochrome stuff and having no background whatsoever on
I
these
think
covers.
that's the colorist. Do we have enough grades? I think we should add them up there.
Yeah, they all had kind of that either blending color or just solid black on number 3 here. So
Yeah.
they all had those kind of.
I actually like the black
back
one
covers.
three.
Yeah, Silver Age Dave. Okay, hold on. I'm not doing my job here, am I? Hold on.
No.
Week.
All right, here we go.
Yeah,
Kenny,
four
you got
is the worst one.
you got the
That
abacus
green.
ready?
That green is rough. Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Let's see here. Let's go with 4 for Simeon, 4.5 from Biggie, 3.5 from Stan, 3 from our alumni, the Gray Man, 4.5 from Big Steve Whiting, 4 from Bill, 5.0 from Dave Enrique. I guess I didn't ruin it for him. 4.5 from Chad, 4.5 from Samuel David, 2.5 for Rangi and Vigilante. Collectible paper, of course, a 5. It's his avatar. Vancouver Comic Jumpy, 3.5. Gabriel, 3. And 4 from first edition. I think they upgraded us, guys.
Did they upgrade us?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.9. So that's a 4 from
That's a
the
4.
chat.
Wow.
All right, someone turn off the chat.
Halfway higher, eh?
That's still really close though.
It is close.
And it was good because I think not only did this panel, but also the chat kind of put its iconic status aside a little bit and actually graded it on its merits, which is nice, you know, because at least you get a little
The
honest
chat's
score.
really good at that.
All right. So let's stick with the art and we'll do the interior art. And we'll keep going to the left. So David, sir, how did you feel about Frank Miller's portrayal of Wolverine in this comic book?
What up, aggressively?
Okay, well, it's an interesting dichotomy. A lot of the same issues that I had with the cover kind of follow into the book. I like Frank's writing a lot. Hopefully the green screen didn't screw this up too bad. Should have thought about that. He has too much yellow in his costume. I don't know. It's such a yin and yang of really good and then kind of subpar in a lot of ways, which is really kind of disheartening. It's solid throughout. I'm not going to knock it too bad. Let's see if I can show us more. There's some weird things with anatomy once again inside. The bear doesn't look all that great. I'm trying to do this in reverse. You got stuff like that. A lot of shadow. I like that. That's kind of a cool effect. I'm way over here with him all blacked out, but not in his clothes, and then he's fighting the bear. So it's like I don't know who this guy is. Yeah, we all know it's Wolverine, right? There's a lot of no backgrounds again, just like on the cover. All that shiny stuff you see on the screen is actually no background, solid colors, usually yellow. So there's a little bit of a laziness when it comes to some of the backgrounds in here. And when you do get them, they're not great. But there's a few good ones. I like this like little Buddha statue. I say little, but it's enormous in the background there. But a lot of this is in shadows. It takes place at night. So I think this was a book that was made to be kind of drawn fast. I think they were kind of in a rush to do some of this. And yeah, it just shows. I mean, some things are good, but like I don't like Wolverine's face there. Some things are a little wide, like this guy down here. I don't know. It's good, but it's nothing spectacular. So I'm not going to spend overly long looking and talking about it. There's some really good action poses though. I kind of dig that, and I don't know. It's not the best storytelling kind of like Neil Adams art, but it's serviceable. It gets the job done, so it's gonna get a serviceable for me. It's gonna get a 2.5. This is the weakest aspect of the book, by the way, for me was the interior art, but I said it passes muster. It's not bad. It doesn't distract you too much. It's not something you go back to look for because of the interior art, in my opinion. So yeah, it's 2.5, middle of the road.
An interesting take. I see we may have a difference of opinions yet,
It's bound to happen sooner or later.
but it's not my turn yet. It is the Mighty Metarog. Roger, you probably had the same sort of nostalgia for this interior art that I did, right? For this book, remembering it from our youth, as it were. How did you feel? Did it still stand up? Do you still like Frank Miller's stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think I liked it a little better than Genome, and I'll tell you that again, I think the interior was a step above the cover in that the inker and hold on, sorry, somebody followed me on Instagram. The inker and Frank Miller, I think, were a little more in tune. I see where Genome is saying some of the backgrounds are sparse, but you have this splash page. You can see, again, the kind of grit and the kind of emotion that is on his face here. I think is for especially for this time was pretty spectacular. And one thing I noticed about this comic is that the panel layouts, are so well done. When you need a vertical panel like this, where you want to see, right up here, where the shadows are kind of melding with him. I think those panel layouts are really well done. And then sometimes it's not the art that you see, it's the art that you don't see that helps the story along, right? Like you see him here, from the perspective of the bear or from the interior of the cave looking out toward the light. And you just see his outline. He looks almost like a feral wolf, right? That kind of imagery is pre-planned, right? Yeah, the bear looks a little odd. Obviously, if he's a grizzly bear, Dave might speak to that more than I could. It looks a little odd to me. But again, all the onomatopoeia, I think here is well done. You get that chook, you get the snick with the claws coming out of his hand. I'll talk about more of that in the story. Again, the backgrounds are sparse, but again, the way the story tracks in those panels, I think is pretty well done. Yeah, that is really odd. That bear there, you're right. That looks, it looks like almost like a big dog on his hind legs. But again, we have, half his face here, because again, it's for effect. You know the other half what it's going to be, but he's transitioning, looking into the future of thinking about what he's going to do. And again, you have this almost like isometric view here on the left of the bar, so to give you a perspective of the distance and how much depth there is in this space. And again, the story flows very well. Here he has a more panoramic view with the cityscape in the background, smaller figures, kind of not detailed, but you want to get an aspect of where he is and what he's doing. Okay. So I really dig like the art. Some of the inking is a little better. The backgrounds, as Genome said, are a little sparse here or there, but again, some of them have pretty good effect, even though, like you said, the Buddha here, pretty well done. Again, look at the face here of Mariko. Obviously she's been beat up, and you can see the bruising, you can see the purpling, you can see the eye, how it's swelling. You can see some nice detail here on her gi. And then of course right here, this yellow color around his teeth when he finds out that she's been hit. And then of course here a little transition panel of him ready to go and her appeasing him. I think the art here is actually pretty well done. good storytelling elements, good detail, good action scenes, really good layouts as far as the panel displays, how the story flows. I got to give this a 4 all day long.
Nice. 4 on the interior art. So that's pretty good, Mark. Pretty high up there. Obviously, you liked it, sir. Do you have the nostalgia for it? A little more than David did. All right, I'm going to give the interior a shot here. So, interior art. This is, like I said, Frank Miller was at the height of his game. He was one of the darlings. And you got to get kind of used to his style of illustration. I do like it. There are some wonky stuff, right? Like, but again, it's a Bronze Age comic and it's Frank Miller. What I do like, and I do like it quite a lot, is the choreography of the fight scenes. And once, Claremont kind of shuts up and lets Frank Miller tell a story pictorially, like this whole fight scene between him and the leader of the clan there is just amazing. Like, it's so choreographed so well. You're following along with Wolverine and this ninja guy, and every page you're just like feeling the action, feeling the blows that Wolverine's feeling. Like, look at that one where he gets shot right in the back. Sorry, go that way. Like, man, I could feel Wolverine's pain when he did when in that panel, just from the way Miller's got him all in that position there. And this great panel of him jumping down, right? I don't know. So in those kind of perspectives, I think it's like fantastic. I think, like I said, some of the anatomy is a little wonk. Some of the perspectives is a little wonk too, but that's Miller. Some of it is way too dark, but I think that has a lot to do with the inker. What's the girl that did the coloring on here? Can't remember her name off the top of my head. Yeah, she does a fantastic job.
Len Wein's wife. Glynis Wein.
What's her name?
Isn't it Len Wein's wife? Glynis Wein?
Yeah, that's right. So, like, you look at all those Japanese neon signs in the background. They're so well done with the coloring, and she's got a few of those. Those are those really make the backgrounds jump up. I'm not even sure if Miller even put those in there or if she just kind of colored them in to fill in some background space. So I think color-wise, and a lot of these like coming out of shadow poses and stuff that she gets the color so perfect on. I think she did a fantastic job with the coloring in this book. Like I said, it's over inked in a few places, under inked in a few other ones. Sometimes the missing background is good though. Like this whole shot, if there was a background in this whole shot, I think it would detract from that, right? Like it would detract from that looking of feeling like Wolverine's alone and he's about to get, stomped on, his head stomped on here. That being said, I kind of jumped on the fence here with the Mighty Madrog. I thought it was good. I thought it was some of Frank Miller's best work. If you look at Frank Miller's work now, he went downhill, in my opinion. Something happened to him after Sin City, I think. Like, he wanted to be in movies. He didn't want to do comic books anymore. And you can kind of tell with his art. Maybe he's come back. I haven't read a Frank Miller comic in a while. But I was underwhelmed with him, let's say after the 90s. And yeah, but I did give the interior of this book 4.5, right? I really liked it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, 2. All right. So last but not least on our graders notes, interior comments. Kenny, how did you feel about the interior of this book?
Well, Frank Miller, I definitely appreciate Frank Miller, his writing prowess more than his art. It's like even as of Dark Knight Returns, I love the story. I don't like the art. I might be, it was hard for me to take. I wish he stuck more to this style when he hit that story, because it's pretty good. Like I said, there's going to be some errors. Like he's cockeyed there, right on the first page. So you come right out the gate, like, okay, buckle up for maybe some, some stuff that's not going to be quite anatomically correct, like that bear. People do that a lot with animals. Of like, that looks like a dude in a bear suit versus, like bears. They don't have small necks and like shoulders up here, so they're not going to have like their arms out like that. They're just constructed differently. So, he does things like that, but. And I can point out those kind of things all day throughout this, but I'm going to focus more on the fact that what I think about Frank Miller when it comes to artwork is you can tell that he's a super creative guy, and I think he's so creative. In fact, he's better suited in writing because I think he can see the scene and set up scenes in his mind better than his pencil can execute it. Because he lays out, you can see that he has a great vision. He wants to make an interesting page. The layouts, he uses negative space really well. Like, I love that page of the silhouetted Wolverine on the climbing up the cliff. I did notice as I went through it that because I love it when people are good at breaking up page design. I did notice by the time I got to the book, I'm like, okay, I was really digging the vertical panels that break up the scene, but I noticed it's kind of his go-to thing. Like, he's a little bit of a one-trick pony with that. He does it almost every other page, but it still looks great when he does it. He has some really cool tricks. Like, I thought that was when they referred to the photo of Mariko. I thought that was cool. But then there's some pages that, like, this page isn't super interesting to me. He lays out that scene okay, I suppose. But there's some highlights. Like this. This is another page that, like, the perspective is off on, like, it's supposed to be a tall, scaling up building. So he's using some perspective to show, like, that height of that building, but Wolverine's body is not in line with that, and I don't really know why he went this route with, like, the blued out face behind the wolf thing, and the climbing poses looked weird. So, like, there's misses like that, but I think he knows what, basically what looks good. Like, I'm sure Claremont just wrote, Mariko's below a Buddha statue. And he laid that out beautifully, made it a big, towering Buddha statue, good use of shadow. And he's great at drawing hands. And I was really, like, taken by that. I'm like, that's a really good hand. That's a really good hand. Because it was on my mind ever since the cover. And then he ends with a grand finale of one of the best use of hands to tell a story that I've seen. So that's going to be the crescendo that I end on. Right there, great. I love that page. He did a good job with that. So this is another favorite. As you can see, with the recurring theme of the vertical panel to break up the page and also removing the border behind it is a very recurring trick that he does. It looks cool, but, this was a great way to convey when he gets the toxic shuriken, show him shadowed out, and then his eyes kind of like setting into the fact that he's poisoned. That was really well done. That's a creative guy has to see that. A more layman artist would just show him woozy with some stars around his head, and there you go. But Miller really conveyed that well with, like, his eyes emerging out of the shadow, out of the fog. Miracle touched on that. The whacks to the neck, 3 consecutive whacks to the neck. You feel those, like, ow, fuck. Last thing. Oh, shout out to those Chinese signs, the neon Chinese signs, beautiful. And here's the awesome use of hands. So, well-drawn hands. These guys roll up on Wolverine when he's down in the alley. They're holding weapons. They're like, let's attack him. And he conveys Wolverine kicking their ass by just showing them release their grip on their weapons. I was like, damn, that is cool. That's all you needed to know. They rolled up with fist clench, weapons in hand, and them releasing the weapons is all you need to know. Next you see their bodies piled up. Wolverine handled them. I thought that was really clever. that's my point. He's just a creative guy. He thinks outside the box, but I just don't think his pencil quite keeps up with his mind. But a lot of style points, and I'm going to round up for this and give it a solid 4.0. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Right. Okay.
Very nice, Kenny.
Awesome. Okay,
Very nice.
some very good insights. So now is the time for the chat to join in. You guys give us your grades. Let us know what you thought about Miller's interior art. Yeah, hand in your grades and we'll just have a little chat amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
I love that shirt, Kenny. That's fucking awesome.
Say it again.
I love your shirt.
Oh yeah, man. Don't forget, man. Everyone's cooped up in the house, dude. Stay off them drugs, bro. Don't get
Don't drink the Drano.
Idle hands at the devil's workshop. Keep it on straight and narrow, bro.
It's like one of those shirts they hand out in junior high school, right?
Yeah,
it's bringing me back to middle school.
Yeah.
The best part's when you watch like the show Cops, whatever, you see the guy getting pulled off the street corner wearing the Dare shirt. It's been hanging out crack for an hour.
Yeah.
Hundreds of bullets.
What was that? Can you recap our grades? I forget. Amongst us four. Can we recap our grades amongst us four? I forgot.
Yeah. See, I had a 2.5. Medrog had a 4. Miracle had a 4.5, and of course yourself with a 4.
2.5, you said,
Yeah, it was the lowest score for me.
Yeah.
I just didn't care for it. I don't know.
How could you not care for that, David?
It's
harsh.
It's okay. I mean, like Kenny says, man, there's a lot of really good ideas in there. It's just that, I like to see like Will Spartacio or someone else take a crack at it. You know what I mean?
I can see if you lean more grading it due to just straight up its technical, execution, then I can see a lower grade. You kind of have to give vision points almost to, I think.
What I didn't understand is how the hell that bear got into that cave. Those things are not orangutans, and it's not King Kong. How the hell did he get up in and out of that cave that Wolverine had to climb up for half a day? Yeah.
Man.
Was a cool shot though, of like from inside the cave looking out and seeing him silhouetted against the sun or whatever back there. That was pretty cool. I like the imagery. Some of the imagery is really good in this.
Yeah, that's kind of a classic Miller, the whole silhouetted person.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got Man Cave Comics and Super Russ in here. How you doing, guys? Great to join. And Alex Big Blue. Wow.
Kavi.
Cool. Yeah, Kavi was in here too. I already said hi to him in the chat. And Joe Bag of Sevens is in here too.
Doesn't look like we're getting any more grades, so maybe we'll add those guys up.
All right. Kenny, let me know when you're ready.
I am ready.
All right. We got 4 from Biggie, 4 from Samuel David, 3.5 from Comic Mag Musings, 4 from Simeon, 5.2. I guess that's a 5.0. Maybe I missed a typo. 4 from Kavi, 3.5 from Stan, 4.0 from Man Cave, 3.5 from Joe, 3.5 from First Edition, 4 from Collectible Paper, 4 from Steve Whiting, 4.5 Dave Enrique, and I think that's it.
See Chad 90 with a 3.
Chad's lit a 3 in there.
Yep, I see it now. 3. Yep, you're right.
Okay. All right, that brings us to a chat score of Quattro. 4.
4.
4.
Oh.
Nice. See, David, it's good.
2 4s in a row. I never argue with the chat.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move along, and let's talk about the story itself. Chris Claremont's writing. Frank Miller definitely had a finger and a thumb into this writing of this book. Some of his ideas definitely shine through here. Medrog, how did you feel about the writing in this book? How did you feel about the story?
Okay, when I first remember seeing this coming on the stand, Wolverine was a staple, obviously, in X-Men, and of course Claremont was writing him there. So I kind of expected, I didn't expect this, right? I expected that Wolverine. This Wolverine, to me, was a bit different. This story is essentially one of love and honor, and it's set up nicely with the when Wolverine goes after that bear. The writing doesn't let you know immediately that it's an animal. It makes you believe that there's some kind of villain that has killed people. And then he finds out that actually it's not the bear's fault, but it was somebody who didn't take care in how he hunted the bear. And he, in true Wolverine fashion, he exacted justice upon that person. And it gave you that he had a code of honor that really goes beyond what we think of as savagery. He has a very specific tenet in his character that goes to that place, right? And then we learn about Mariko and his relationship with her, and how, I'm not going to give everything away, but how at this point he was being told that he can no longer have that relationship. But of course, Wolverine doesn't take that at face value. He's a man of action. He's a man who has to find out for himself. Okay. And he thrusts himself into a position that he was warned not to go to. And obviously there's a lot of consternation, a lot of violence, a lot of raw emotion. And that's where the honor part comes in and the love part comes in, because you can see that the only way that Wolverine can be controlled is by love. Anything else he can overpower, but that is the one thing he respects above all else. And he's overconfident, but at this point, Wolverine wasn't the overpowered thing where you can rip him in two and he could come together. He could be hurt, he could be disabled, and Miller wrote him as a more vulnerable character here, a much deeper, a more three-dimensional character, especially when it comes to his relationship with Mariko and the respect and the love that he has for her, even to the point where when she was beat up here, and he wanted to kill the man responsible, she demanded he not do that, because he knew the repercussions for him and for her would be dire, right? And it talks about if you're into Asian culture, the patriarchal aspects of Asian culture, especially of Japan, how honor is above even love there, and the intrinsic issues that come with having that kind of shall we say, juxtaposition of ideals. So I think this was a clever story. Again, Claremont is very verbose. He has a lot of inner monologue constantly. You're constantly knowing what's going on in Wolverine's head, and his step by step, how he has more respect for animals than humans, because he knows that humans are betrayers and animals are ones that deal with more instinct. Those are kind of subtle things that he puts in the story, which I thought was really brought you in. Really, you really wanted to know how this was going to be resolved. Obviously, we have more issues to come, and at the end there, a very vulnerable Wolverine is put in a position where, and obviously rescued here. And look, he is just a despondent man, because he doesn't see how he could possibly resolve this because of the situation behind it. All enemies are against him, and Mariko is not going to let him do what he wants to do. So I think this is a very well thought out story. Dialogue is a little heavy-handed, a little bit hackneyed here and there, but overall, I give this story a very solid 4.
4. Well, that is high praise. Let me give a crack at the story here, guys. It'll be my turn next. Man, I'm not a fan of Chris Claremont. I really am not. He is a wordy motherfucker. Like, and he takes stuff off in the wrong direction. Why? I don't want to have a love story with Wolverine. I don't need a love story with Wolverine. I don't need Wolverine to go to Japan and have a bunch of angst about a girlfriend he can't have. Love he fighting ninjas. Love that he's like fighting out in the Canadian Rockies and the the wilderness. That means he is was right over there in comparison to where I live. And I love like just certain like I love the way Claremont kind of works his way into the Japanese culture, works him into the Japanese culture. A lot of this dialogue is really heavy-handed and really unnecessary and so long-winded again. Like just look at some of these pages, man. They're just word after word. Like look at how wordy that is. Blah 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 blah. Fuck F off, Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont is really good at big pictures, really sucks getting you there. He's really, I remember lots and lots of times skipping over pages in X-Men comics, like, oh, shut up, right? This story also was a little bit confusing, I find, at first, unless you read X-Men number 171, 172, and 173, which tell a lot about what the hell is going on in this story. Right, and they don't make any reference to those. So the reader, so Claremont is assuming that you're an X-Men fan and that you've been reading the X-Men and that you've been reading his latest issues that make the whole link between Mariko and Logan, and make this whole link back to Japan for Wolverine, and make where his like martial arts training and stuff like that come, and that he even spoke Japanese fluently was in those Uncanny X-Men issues, and then they just jump right into it. But he doesn't fail to give you the old, this is somebody's first comic book somewhere, and may not know who Wolverine is, so I better spout off what his powers are again. Now, this book came out 7 years after the Incredible Hulk number 181, and Dave Cochran didn't really like Wolverine all that much. It wasn't until John Byrne got a hold of him that he kind of fleshed out the character a little more with Chris, and that kind of led to this book, right? But the story has really good points, and like I said when I was critiquing the art, the best parts of this book is where Claremont shuts up and lets Miller tell a visual tale. I don't need to read a book, Chris. I don't need to read, a short story. I need you to just fill me in on some dialogue, move along, man. Right? Like it's Wolverine, snicked, motherfucker. Like snicked is what you want to see. Not oh, I love her and I don't know what to do and maybe I'll sneak in and maybe I can't live without her. Go on, man. Doesn't seem like a killer to me. Like I can't live without this girl, right? Like Wolverine is a killer. Anyway, I gave the story of this book a 2.5. I gave it middle of the road because there are some cool stuff. There are some cool references to Japan and the Yakuza and ninjas and that kind of stuff. So that all brings it up. I mean, if you remember 1982, ninjas were huge, especially for like 13-year-old boys. Like American Ninja had just come out, and Enter the Ninja and those kind of movies. People were nuts for ninja. So good call playing on to that. And like I said, I was a big fan of it, and 2.5 for my story score because way too wordy for me. Way too wordy, way too whiny, way too Claremont.
Oh, Dave, you're such a romantic. You know that. By the way, those X-Men issues came out after this miniseries, about a year after.
No.
You did. I remember. I picked them up, buddy.
171. Did that lead into this story? I didn't go back and reread them.
It kind of expanded the story afterwards. I mean, you're right. It is confusing because it's kind of flashbacky and all that, but it did come out after this miniseries.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been corrected. Even so, it's still way too wordy.
We got to rethink the whole grade. Hold on.
Trust me, Roger knows what he's talking about.
Oh, in that case, give it a 5.
There we go. Oh, everything's different now.
Oh man.
All right, Kenny, brother.
Okay.
Tell me what your opinion of the story is for me.
Look, I get it. As an X-Men reader, I've read a bunch of X-Men. I understand the sometimes like drudgery of certain Claremont writing, and sometimes it can get wordy, and it's a little excessive. You know, I still think he's a good writer. He said big picture stuff, great. Sometimes it's not a constant, in my opinion. But yeah, sometimes I feel like he wants to write. He wants to write as if he's being like the omniscient narrator of a book in a novel, and when you do that, you can get really descriptive and really eloquently make your point to the reader, so they know the feeling of what you're talking about. But the mistake that he makes is he writes that as the character's narration, inner monologue. You got to remember that certain characters aren't going to think like that and speak like that, and he trips up on that sometimes. Even though it might sound nice and it might accurately describe what those characters are feeling, is that how they would process the way that they're feeling? And sometimes I think not. But it's not that bad here. The first like 2 pages kills it. I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do best isn't very nice. First time that was used. This is when he's climbing that mountain. This is home to me, the Canadian Rockies, land as stark and elemental as my soul. I'm here on business, to hunt, to kill. Like I said, what I do best. Oh, that was fantastic, dude. Right off that first page, I'm like, dude, that's the, like, him at his best. Of it wasn't too flowery. It was poetic enough that it's like really hits a tone, but you could see Wolverine narrating that. Really good. I did find it a little jarring, like when we went from, you really get no transition from the bar scene with the bear, and you just right after the bar scene, you get up to this page of a picture of Mariko and him on a plane to Japan. I was a little thrown off by that. Like, did I miss? I'm like, is a page missing? Did a page rip out? Because it was really a quick jump. I do think, like Metarog was saying, I think it was important to have that in the beginning. I think it lets you know his code, you know, which I've always dug about Wolverine. He's a savage, but he's a savage with like a code of honor. And the book reads like almost like classic Western, you know, damsel in distress, honor, revenge, bosses, henchmen, goons. Like, it's like a spaghetti Western kind of story, which samurai Japanese stuff has always lended itself. Those 2 genres always like, you could interchange them a lot because they have a lot of the same tropes and stuff. And I think it plays out. I think it plays out well. There's moments, you know, that I think to Miracle's point where he was. So I read that excerpt from the beginning. This one at the end. This is after he gets the big aerial stomp, you know, and he's on his ass on the streets of Japan. And here he thinks to himself, I'm lost inside. My soul, all that I thought I was and am and ever will be, is shattered, cast to the winds. Compared to this, death is a mercy. That's a little too in his feelings than I would expect Logan to be. I agree. He does. I wish he would balance that a little better, but overall, I dug it. I thought, and they even did the obligatory issue #1 guy explaining what his powers are to the reader throughout this, which can always be a drag, but he did it pretty well in this. It never slowed up the story. It kind of like made sense when he would inject that stuff, and I thought he like stuck the landing on that pretty well. So overall, well executed. I'm giving it high marks. I thought it didn't dip into the worst of Claremont. It had a little bit here and there, but this issue had very little of the big chunky exposition of Claremont. So this is going to get a 4 as well. 4.0.
Yeah. Ooh.
Boom.
Very good. Very good. So I was looking at it up.
Oh, there it is.
Like a miracle.
It's 171. You're right. They are about a year later, but they are that continuing story where like Wolverine and Rogue end up going to Japan.
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting that mixed up with the events in Daredevil number 197, where the X-Men joined in there, and that was a Frank Miller thing. It was kind of the first time they started to set up the whole Japanese thing for Wolverine.
Yeah.
Does that make more sense?
Miller had a thing for Japanese culture, so yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah, big time he did, right? Plus, like I said, at the time ninjas were stupid hot, right? Like every kid was wrapping a t-shirt around his face and going out with a wooden stick and being a ninja. Right?
Oh yeah.
Believe me, Roger knows where he was when he got this book. He was on the way to the LCS down Miami. He just stopped off at El Pollo Loco. He just got himself a quick basket, and he can tell you right what was going on.
Loco back, I don't think in Miami at that point, but
they didn't. That crazy chicken with that crazy taste. They didn't have it.
Probably I was at my Miami twice.
I still remember the commercials.
Never heard of it.
Oh, that and Pollo Tropicals, it's a successor now. They still have those in Orlando.
Pollo Tropicals is a successor, yeah.
One of my good friends, we used to call him El Pollo Mojado.
Oh, geez.
Because he was real skinny, and if we go swim or whatever, his hair all stick up, so yeah.
Cool.
Funny. All right, brother.
Hey, that's funny. I never shout out to I think it was Biggie Shack that made the connection of two Canadian legends, Wolverine and Bret Hart, and their slogans are kind of similar. The best there is, the best there ever will be, and I'm the best there is at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I like that. Worth knowing.
Biggie.
Cool.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna swing it over here to Genome. Sir, how did you feel about the story?
Yeah, Gino. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to use a couple visual aids for this one, too, because it was funny that you brought it up. I was actually going to mention it. I am a huge James Clavell fan. I'm a big Mark for him. These are two of my favorite books of all time. I've literally read the cover off Taipan. I've read this book so many times, and it's probably my favorite book of all time. And I think these books heavily inspired this turning point for Logan, this backstory, because it's very focused on the whole Japan thing and the honor thing. They use the word gaijin all through there, which, unless you're in the know about Japan, you have no idea what that is. Basically, it's the detesting that they have for foreigners, right? But so it's interesting to see this incorporated. This is really weird for a comic book. This is a very adult theme going on here that was not prevalent at the time. You're still kind of in the later Bronze Age, still a little bit popcorny, when it comes to the adventures of comic book heroes and stuff. And this one's a little bit darker and more brooding. Now, it's the execution that I think is a bit lacking in this. It's just like I'm loath to ever agree with anything Miracle says, but boy, is it wordy, and it is ham-fisted in its way of holding the reader's hand through everything that Logan does. But it is abrupt too, like Kenny was saying. It's like, okay, he finds the guy in the bar, and the very next panel, he's in Japan. He's just flying over to Japan. Somehow he can get on airplanes pretty easily. How does he get through the metal detector? I've always wondered that. Does adamantium not show up? But anyway, yeah, it's an epic, or at least it's trying to be an epic, and it doesn't need to be. This should be a little more straightforward, to the point. And yeah, I don't want to see Logan as this, I don't want to say pee-whipped, but I mean, it's bad, man. He's like this lost, wet puppy. And it's like, oh, I have so much love and feeling in my heart that I'm going to destroy this woman and her new lover or her new husband just because I have to get closure of some kind. It's like, it doesn't make him, like, I don't feel sorry for him. It's like he kind of brought all this on himself. He shouldn't have inserted himself. He was warned by a colleague and a fellow operative that, hey, leave it be. This is the powers that be. Even though you've lived here a long time, obviously, you know the language, you don't really understand what's going on here culture-wise. This is a hereditary family thing. When the father of the family asks you to do something, you do it, and there's no question about it, or you're shamed for generations. You're out of the family, and that's the biggest thing in Asian culture. Can't happen. So they try to kind of broach the subject in the book, and it's, I guess, nice for the person who doesn't know anything about Japan, but man, this is a comic book, man. This is not a novel that has 300-400 pages to go through this stuff. And it really bogs the story. I guess they used the setup of the original, or the initial parts of it, where he's hunting the bear down and then hunting the hunter who made the bear go crazy, as just kind of show him he has some sort of strict moral code or something. I don't know. I'll give him some slack here because Wolverine was not the household name that he is or became later on in the 80s. You know, they were still fleshing out the character. Uh, so some of the character traits we might know him for may not be showing up here just because they weren't around yet. You know, they weren't written down. So I can give some slack for that. It's just that it's such a slog. Yes, so much inner dialogue during the complete fight. It was nice to know, like, the ninja was going for certain pressure points, trying to kill him with the wooden sword, right? Or paralyze him. Okay, that's kind of cool. But man, just every panel had something in it. It's like you don't have to describe I'm walking down the street in Japan and in Nippon or whatever. It's like, okay, I can see you're walking down the street because of the signs behind you in another country and it says you've been in Japan. You know, just things like that. Just unnecessary, wordy. Some of the dialogue is pretty, I hate to say ham-fisted, but it's a little bit wooden and stilted. So there's some good stuff. I can really appreciate though the difference, the different outlook this book had. You know, like I said, they gave it a much more mature theme, which I can really dig. So I'm gonna give this book score for the story a 3. It has grand ideas and a grand scope, and they're really trying to give Logan some character development and some backstory, which is good. Just some of the execution's just a little bit wooden, and Logan is a man of few words. He's like the Punisher, and that's one thing that I kind of didn't like too much about some of the Garth Ennis run is he allowed tons of inner monologue. You know, it's like he's more of a I can go 2-3 pages without him saying anything kind of character. You know, and not being amiss. He's a loner. He doesn't need to talk to anybody and expel what he's doing. So I like to see his actions speak for him more often. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 3. Like I said, it's a grand idea, but just a little bit lacking execution.
Oh, right. Fair enough, David. See, you agree with me sometimes.
It happens from time to time.
It happens once in a while. Well, let's see if the chat agrees with me or if they agree with others on the panel here. How did you guys feel about the story? If you can remember the story, if you've taken a look at it recently online, or if you do have the reprint that came out recently as well, please give us a grade on how you feel about the story. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I left some meat on the bone there. I didn't mention I'm the best at what I do, but what I do best isn't very nice. Right? That became such a huge Wolverine cliche, but that's the first time it was used. We can't blame Claremont on stuff like that, right? Like, 'cause that's just because he started it, right? He's a trendsetter or whatever. But a lot of the story is like, man,
yeah,
people don't talk like that.
I see where Genome is coming from, especially when if you're so involved in Japanese culture and you see a novel and you look at this, I could see that it would be tough to sort of, equate one to the other. But I think you said something very poignant, and is that this was very different than anything else going on at the time. It was more mature themed. It was taking Wolverine and showing him as a passionate character. Now, we knew he was a passionate character before, but to the negative. But here you can see that his passion is actually in all aspects of his life. And he can't rein in that passion. So when you guys say, well, he love and all this, passion is passion. You can't sort of piecemeal on and off. It is what it is. When you're a passionate person, you're passionate about everything. You can't say I'm only passionate at night, or I'm only passionate, when it comes to certain subjects. You're passionate, and that's what Wolverine is sort of being laid out here, is that he has an intense passion for justice, for not putting up with BS, and when he loves something, he is not letting that go until he dies, and that's what I think Claremont was trying to sort of show us through his very wordy. You're right. Very wordy, very hackneyed, a little wooden here and there, but I think effective dialogue.
I don't think stalker was a household word back when Claremont was writing this, but that's what it comes off as to me.
Breaking in her and all this stuff.
I never did understand why did he put on the costume too. I never understood that when he got to Japan. Why did he put that on to go prowling for his ex?
I don't know.
That was
make
weird.
sure nobody knows who it's him, right? Yeah, there's like one of like a couple of things I do like the whole book is narrated from Wolverine, right? Like he's the narrator of the entire story. I like that kind of aspect of it, that it's kind of like him telling you what happened rather than you just kind of watching it. But Yeah, really, really lots of wordy stuff. I wasn't too put back by the Japanese culture or nothing. I mean, it's 1982. Back then, they probably didn't experience a lot of Japanese culture. Frank Miller probably didn't know much about it either. Maybe he'd been there by that time. I don't know.
He might have been.
It was
I'll
You want
misunderstood,
to
right?
take the scores because Kenny's on a phone call.
yeah, I can do the
Yeah.
abacus.
Let me know when you're ready.
Let's see. Go ahead.
Okay. We got Biggie with 3, Bill with 4, Joe with 3, Steve 3.5. Robert Austin has some kind of equation here. I think it's around a 3.
Okay.
4.5 for Unruly, 4 for Samuel, 3 for First Edition, 4 for Man Cave, 3.5 Dave Enrique, and 3.5 for Don the Mastodon.
Nice.
We got any more?
That's all. Yeah.
It was our mean average there.
Give me 1 second.
Sorry about that.
Where's
There it is.
So it comes in at a 3.5 on the nose.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice middle of the road. Yep, with all those. I said just grand scope, and it was cool to see like one single character get that much development, which was also kind of rare back then. But
Yeah. Agreed.
man, they could have done it faster. And it wasn't really a long book either. That's what the weird part was. This reminds me of Suicide Squad and the fact that it
know.
wasn't a really long book, but it took forever to get through. It felt like.
I mean, she's got like 6 pages of Wolverine pining over Madiko, and that bear grizzly fight, tracking the guy back to the bar, beating up the guy in the bar, and sending him to the cops, and then getting on his way to Japan took 6 pages. You know what I mean? Like it's like, fuck this. Why didn't you give me a little more of this action, a little less of this fucking conversation?
You know, they reused that first part in Punisher War Journal War 6 and 7, the Wolverine Daredevil or Punisher fight. It's the same thing. Wolverine was tracking poachers. They were using animal skins and stuff, so that's how he wound up running into the Punisher.
Neat. But all right,
Fun
so I'm going to tackle the concept of the book. Right, I'll go up first on that one. And so, concept of this book rocks. If they had have executed the concept better, this would have been like beyond classic. I mean, it's classic enough as it is, but I mean, if Claremont's writing could match this concepts, man, it would have been so much better. I mean, taking this character that was an X-Men, was basically just a brute, wasn't really all that interesting, even though, you know, Byrne had expanded a little bit and kind of poked at Claremont to do that to get Wolverine. What I was kind of reading about the book, and what I read is that, you know, Miller and Claremont came up with the idea of doing this book and putting Wolverine as a ninja or a samurai sort of character, like he's like a lost Ronin kind of character, set in Japan. They met together at San Diego Comic-Con, and while they were signing autographs on a break or whatever, that's when they got together and decided to do this book together, which, you know, capitalizing again on the ninjas and, you know, the fascination with Japanese culture at this time, especially ninjas. You know, write to your audience, like always write your stories with a clear audience in mind. And he had 13-year-old boys in mind when he wrote Wolverine into being a ninja. There's no way about it at that point. If you wanted to have a successful toy line, if you wanted to have a successful comic book, you had to have a ninja in there somewhere, right? I think there was even like a Transformers ninja at some point. Maybe Biggie can tell me that one. So the concept of this book was good, right? Like taking this guy who was, you know, somewhat interesting and just really expanding him into this warrior character, lost, you know, lone wolf guy on his own in Japan, fighting ninjas, having, you know, some background. Like, why does he speak perfect Japanese, right? Because he's been here before. There's something else going on at this. And then even right up to the end when they have the little fucking, you know, cliffhanger ending, which I liked. And so the concept of this book, I thought was much, much better than the execution of the story. right? And the concept of this book is what propelled Wolverine into the superstar that he became, right? You know, I'm the best at what I do, and what I do is make a shit ton of money, is what he should have said, right? Because he has made billions of dollars for Marvel since this comic book came out. But it really kind of started here, making Wolverine as famous as he is, right? Making him as popular as he is. And it was the concept behind it, because it definitely can't be the writing in this story, but making Wolverine a ninja assassin guy or a ninja samurai kind of guy really captivated the minds of 14-year-olds and sold comic books like hotcakes. That's for sure. Personally, I gave the concept a 4. Okay, there could have been a couple little things where, he didn't have to what's the kind of like, he didn't have to get involved too much with the love story part of it, and that's where I lost the point. So I just can't see, like, I know Claremont does it all the time. He did it with Jean Grey and Madeline Pryor and whoever else that Wolverine has a crush on that week and has angst about under Chris Claremont's writing. But I thought Wolverine got much better written once other writers took off with him and focused on different aspects of Wolverine. But it really did start here, right, with the concept of this book. And this book is what made Wolverine super famous. So I gave it a 4.
Nice.
Did I say too much? Did I leave you nothing, Kenny?
Yeah, I got nothing, dude.
Pack it up. That's
No.
I agree with Miracle.
No, I'm no good, and I'm glad, because I was wondering something that you clarified for me, because I wasn't sure timeline wise if this mini was the first time they introduced the Wolverine's connection to Japan part of his character. Was this happening did it happen in X-Men first, or did they introduce that here?
It happened in Daredevil first. That's where he first got introduced with Mariko and stuff. In Daredevil, there was like an X-Men crossover with Daredevil in like 197, and then that's when, like, pretty much right.
Is that Miller's run though?
That was on Frank Miller's Daredevil run.
All right, so we'll still give him. It was still Miller, so we'll give him points for that.
Was he a member of the Hand or something?
Ooh.
That's right. Yeah, Miracle's first appearance is in a Daredevil book, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 197.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I'm probably gonna go strong on the concept. I think is I like that about Wolverine's character, the Japanese Ronin connection. It added, because usually what goes hand in hand with that is the honor code, right? But also, the brutality of death by the sword. Like, I feel like, I've never been there. I'm no, theologian on the Japanese culture, but seems to me that it's like heavy in honor, but also heavy in like stern, decisive action, punishment if need be. And I think that was good to like layer on top of Savage Wolverine character of, don't just make him a beast, like that he has this like hardcore, I'll snick you without really thinking twice, because he reverts back to his code. You know what I'm saying? He can sleep at night because he's got his code. So I thought that was cool. I can understand the feeling like it went too heavy into the relationship thing. And Unruly said in a comment earlier that I was thinking the same thing of Wolverine's been around so long that, you would think over time, he's probably had lots of love come and go. So, I understand Metarog's point of view. It's just, he's just a passionate guy, so he's always going to be that passionate. But, I think he probably would harden up a little bit more than he does in some of this stuff. But whatever. It's women in love and heartbreak is one of the classic fuels to stories, so it's fine. But yeah, man, ninja battles, bear wild animal battles, awesome. I just think well done. I think for a tight 4-issue story, that they did a good job with it. I personally don't feel like this book dragged that much. I've heard that as a common theme. I don't think so. I went through it, and there aren't many like big blocks of text. I felt like it has a good pace. I've read ahead. Once I got into this one, I jumped right into 2 and 3. I just got to finish up 4, but I feel like they designed a pretty good moving story, encapsulated story, good shit. I like the creative team, Claremont and Miller. I think that was a good decision. I'll put that in the concept category of the Marvel when they chose the talent for this book. Cool team up of talent, and overall, happy with it. Solid. I'm just going to continue with my 4.0 grade that I've given the last 2 categories, and the concept gets a 4.
Nice. Very good points, Kenny. Very good points, and I'm glad you liked the concept. Like I said, the concept to me seemed really strong.
Yeah.
Much stronger than the story itself, in my opinion. Dave, how about you? How did you feel about it?
Well, the concept. It's about time I got to this category because I've been waiting for it all night. This concept, or the grade for this, is going to blow away every other score by 100% in this, and it's for good reason. This is how you launch a character into stardom, right? This is how you do it right. See, I'm sure they were sitting around like saying, well, they got to figure out a new hero to push, right? They need some single book, or they want to start pushing the X-Men more eventually, and this being a character of them will help, move that more. In fact, they probably wouldn't even make another solo series for him just because if you see him too much, it starts to wear off a little bit. But so you want to push a character, right? So there's not a lot written about this character, though, but some people seem to like him. So let's give him a mini series. Let's put really talented guys on it and watch what happens. Let's make some iconic, eye-grabbing covers, such as, and really give him a backstory and give him something more than I'm just a feral berserker, stereotypical brawler kind of hero with claws, That's how you do it. And I think they learned their lesson quite well from this, because you see what happened with the Punisher miniseries like a couple years later, and how well that sold, and how well that the Punisher got his push then, and he went red hot as well. So I don't know why they lost their way and didn't do this more often, because this is the perfect way you introduce a character to the masses that you really want to give, like I said, the push out there to use wrestling parlance to make him a real babyface. But good stuff. I mean, I like the direction that they try to take with the more adult themes in the story. I'm not going to grade the story part of it here. It's just cool that they gave him a backstory. They did something different with him, and they gave him more than just 2 dimensions. He's a deeply feeling character, obviously flawed, and not unbeatable too, because in the very first issue he gets his ass handed to him by a mere mortal with a wooden basically stick. So bringing him down a peg too was kind of a cool thing and gutsy thing to do. So this is just great. This is everything that a character relaunch or push should be. And if Marvel had any sense of self-preservation, they would have done this more in the last couple of years. Yeah, great stuff. 4.5. The only thing that dings it maybe is, it's like, and part of the story does creep in there. Or for one thing, it's not new, but it's just kind of a new way of doing it, a novel way of pushing a character out there. But yeah, the whole romance thing is just kind of creepy to the modern eye, so I got kind of graded on that. Now, looking back at 1982, it might not seem as bad, but it is what it is. So 4.5, super solid score. This is how it's done. And Marvel, if you are watching this for some reason, please pay attention to how you used to do things.
This is how it's done, isn't it? That's a great quote, Dave. I like that. Right. This is how you introduce and make a fucking billion-dollar character. Right here. All right, so we're gonna go to the last creator on the list. Metarog, did we hit you? No, we didn't hit you yet.
Not yet.
Started with me. Okay, so we're gonna go to the last creator, the second last creator on the list. There we go. And we will see, Roger, sir, how did you feel about the concept of this book? I know how much you love it, but just tell me anyway.
Well, I think you're going to see a recurring theme here amongst the graders. The mini series at this point was actually quite novel. I think there was maybe one or two previous to this one. So when it came out, we weren't sure what to expect because, the Contest of Champions was sort of a rewrite of a failed project. So this one was, just something that we didn't know what to expect. Wolverine was always, the savage. He was always the hothead. He was always the guy who would run into a fight, ask questions later, and very often he would get himself, over his head. He'd get into trouble with his teammates. And here we have a solo story that we didn't know. I didn't expect this at all. Like Genome was saying, this was something which was just several levels above the standard comic at the time. We had something. We had him with inner monologue. We had him with a lot of conflicted areas in his life, because even though he went to ask about what was going on, and he got a certain response, he couldn't accept it. And we see Logan at this point in his most vulnerable, and yet at his most interesting at the same time. So when they started this series, I think they really wanted to make this an actual character, not just a archetype of a character. And this really fleshed out to me, the depth of what motivates Logan, and the passion that he has, the code that he has, the honor behind him. It's not just savagery. It is actually it's actually passion that is honed, and that is sometimes off the deep end. But when it comes down to it, when you have to cut the mustard and you have to make a decision about what is most valuable in your life, that love story, which you guys are dissing, is what really motivates every one of us. Okay. Otherwise, there'd be no procreation, there'd be no social structure, and Wolverine is not immune to that. And this story brings that to the forefront. I think it was a brilliant concept. I think it took this character. If it wasn't for this series, I think this character would not have grown to the sky is the limit kind of collectability and of following and of relatability that he has with us today. Because even though he is virtually indestructible, even though he has an essential carte blanche of anything, he goes and he smokes cigars and he flips people off, yet the most intrinsic and perhaps the weakest aspect of his character is that he is and can love. And we didn't know that. We just knew that he could lust. We didn't know he could love. And this story brought it out. The concept was brilliant. It brought not just this character, but comic books to another level, almost to a novelization or a novelette, that the prose counted. It wasn't just the action. It was how you got to know the inner workings of a character that we at one time was just a one-off and Hulk, and nowadays is perhaps the most popular character, maybe arguably Spider-Man. So to me, this concept was absolutely off the charts brilliant. I was this close to a 5, guys, this close. All right. But there are just a few little nitpicky things, that I couldn't elevate it to that point, but it's so close because Claremont was just a little bit too in love with his dialogue and a little bit too hackneyed. And I think if he had cut it down just to that raw emotion and passion part and not be so darn long-winded, it would be a perfect miniseries. So I gave this concept a 4.5.
Nice. That is high marks. Pretty close to a perfect there for the concept. So I think, we all pretty much hit an agreement there that the concept was fairly high, like a high level. It was, they were swinging for the fences with this concept. Now it's time to turn it over to the chat, see how they felt about the concept. How did you guys feel about making Wolverine connected to Japan, making him a samurai, connecting him to ninjas, and then the whole love story aspect and whatnot to it. So please give us your grades now in the chat.
Well done, Roger. That was a good summation.
It's very good, and you're right. Like, sex and love motivates humanity through everything, but it doesn't have to motivate Wolverine. He's a comic book character. I want Snick to motivate Wolverine, right? Like, enough talk, time to go. Right?
That's why we have this diverse panel, Dave, because we all have our different points of view.
That's right.
We all have a little bit of a. If we all did the same, this show would just be boring. It would be like, we already know what Dave's going to say, Rog is going to say, Gino.
I'm just saying that some points of view are more right than others.
You sound like CNN.
That's why we love Yukon Dave.
That's right.
It stupefies me, as well as this series, and especially the Punisher miniseries sold. I'm surprised they didn't do it more. But
what do you mean more? Limited series?
Yeah, I mean, they did a few, but it wasn't. They could have relaunched Thor like this. They could have done so many different things like this, and
I think once this one and the Punisher kind of picked up, like, they were pretty wild. Like, Transformers all of a sudden was coming out on their limited series, and then there was all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you got Rocket Raccoon, Scarlet Witch. Raccoon, everybody and his brother got one.
Yeah.
Well, by that time, by this time, everything was selling so well, and it didn't really have to push anything else anymore either, I guess.
That's kind of it too, right? Like, people, you can put out a 4-issue series, but you're selling a number one without really having to commit to a full series.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing that trend come back a little bit more now, of like, just get your high-paid, big guns in the industry that you have now, and let them do like a 4 to 6 issue mini. I mean, I know it happens now, but I feel like they don't bring out all the stops. As
you know what?
Could.
Screw the heavy hitters now. Bring back the frickin' originators. Bring back the 80s and
sure.
Bring them back. They're not doing nothing. They're doing con work. Pay them $1 million. Say, here, write a frickin' mini series for me. It's gonna sell. The old timers will come back and buy again. It won't be like the spec days, but
like that's kind of what the Black Label was doing. Those big magazine size with DC. Mm-hmm. Because they did a Frank Miller came back for that. I forgot who wrote it. I don't know if he wrote and drew it.
Really, the only old school guy I want to come back is John Byrne, and just so he can finish the last Galactus story. And then he'd be fine. He could go off in retirement. You can't retire unless yet, John.
Dave, right there, you and I are looking 100% there. I agree with you 100% on that one. 100%.
He's probably just happy. He's doing the Kirby thing, It's like, I'm going to draw a quick sketch and charge $2,500 for it. I'm going to write a quick paragraph and sell it to a collector. That's all I got to do for my work now.
Don't underestimate ego.
Hey,
guys, you ready? You ready,
Miracle?
Kenny?
Before we do that, Miracle, Joe Croce's got a good little comment there. This is the first time popping on your channel, he said.
Welcome.
What's he saying? Sorry?
It says, Mr. Miracle, first time in your chat. Enjoy the YouTube content. He wanted to let you know.
Oh, perfect. Thanks for joining us here, guys.
Hey, remember to sub anybody up here you don't recognize, guys. Let's keep growing the community. Let's keep supporting each other. Now more than ever, that's so important.
Yeah, I'm not proud.
We got
I'll take
each other,
subs.
and we can't go out really, so we got to keep connected. So let's make sure that we're sub to everybody here in the chat. Ready, Kenny?
I am.
Oh yeah, you're on Concept.
All right.
What was that?
I don't know if Robert Austin is talking about me or if he's putting a 5 for the concept. So let me know, Robert. Sleepy Reader 4.9. I guess we can round up to 5, Kenny. 4.5 for Don. 4.5 for Samuel. 4.5 first edition. 4.5 Biggie. 4 for Dave Enrique. 4.5 for House Till the End. Hey, House Till the End, welcome. Simeon 4.5. Chad 5. Man Cave 4.5. Joe Croce 4. Steve Whiting 4. I think I know what that's going to end up as.
Yeah. Let's see. Well,
I think that's a 4.5 all the way.
4.4 for Robert.
Yeah, 4.5.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, one more category to go, and that's the overall, like the overall of this book, wrapped all up in a nice, neat little package. How did this book play out? Did the art
Hey.
support the story? Did the story drag on and go way off concept? Does it all fit together and make a perfect five? Kenny, what's your opinion, my friend?
Hey, Kenny, before you start, what was the chat score?
4.5.
Okay.
4.5.
You're up, brother.
Yeah, for my overall, I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. And cover, remind you that cover was 3.5. That was my lowest grade, 3.5. I think it's cool, but you know, in my opinion, doesn't deserve more than 3.5. Story 4, well done, not perfect, but very well done. Art 4, concept 4. So I think it was all cohesive, all good. I'm gonna continue the 4 train with my overall grade and give it an overall 4.
Short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah.
So overall, with a 4, that's a pretty good score. And I'm not meaning to rhyme. David, sir, how about you? How was the overall on this book for you?
All right. So overall, iconic cover. A little bit lacking the details in some spots and a little bit of wonkiness here and there, but cool concept and a cool idea. It's definitely eye-catching. Gave it 3.5. Interior arts, where I dinged it the hardest. I thought it was a little too inconsistent for my taste. Just a lot of little, too many nitpicks in there for my liking, and some of the direction just wasn't for me. 2.5, serviceable, right middle of the road. Not bad. It just didn't jump out to me. For the story, I gave it 3.0. It was a cool idea, a lot of grand ideas, like, is want to happen in these kind of things, but it was kind of bogged down a little bit with some unnecessary details. So I gave it a 3, a little bit slow for a Wolverine story. And for the concept, I gave it a 4.5. Huge, knocked it out of the park kind of idea for Marvel, and it paid dividends later on. And as Kenny says, it made them billions of dollars later on down the road. So 4.5. So I went ahead and just went with a 3.5. Better than average book. I was kind of surprised by it. I thought it was going to be pretty hackneyed and just a cash grab. But there was something to this, and there was some genuine love put behind it. So 3.5 from me.
Nice. That's kind of a score I expected from you.
And by the way, I tried to turn off my Wolverine hatred for the scoring. I tried to be objective.
I noticed that. That's why we're going to do the 1988 Wolverine #1 next. We're going to drive that hate into you.
Unruly, get ready. I'm going to have to take a break next week. Next.
Kidding, we're kidding. Okay, Roger, my friend.
Oof.
Overall, how was your feeling on this book? What are you laughing at?
Yeah, I mean,
Hello?
I think it's pretty real quick cover. Striking, brings your attention. Had some problems, but really well done cover. Striking, 3.5. Story, like the story. I thought it was engrossing. I thought it was a good read. Kenny, I didn't think it was laborious to get to it. I thought it was cultural and some very revealing aspects of Wolverine 4. Again, similarly, it had some backgrounds, it had some anatomy issues, it had some wonky figures and poses and here and there, but the storytelling elements, the panel layouts, the action, I think it fell for the concept, like Gene said, off the charts good. Mature, yet entertaining, passion. The way that this expanded Wolverine as a character gave him a lot more depth, gave him a lot more relatability. Really just broadened his horizons to a level that I again was very unexpected to me. 4.5 overall, 4 just excellent. A few little minor things up here and honestly very well done, and honestly a transit something that really transitioned comics a bit after this 300 and things like that did afterwards, and you can see how he really infused a lot of the
Losing Bedrock once in a while.
Matarog, no.
We can't hear you, Roger.
Why?
hello.
You still
No
there,
worries.
Raj?
Oh,
You
Roger,
still there?
you got a number for us?
Sorry.
I'll go on to the overall here.
Hit it, Miracle.
All right. He's coming back.
Oh, 4.
4. I heard it.
Thank you.
Next time, just hold up your fingers. 4.
The Horseman, baby. I'm Tully.
Okay, for me, the overall, like I said, the cover, good. Like, it's iconic. The interior, again, I really like the fight scenes that Miller choreographs in there. I really like the way he flows with the story and his artwork. The story itself, too wordy, off base, like it's off on some tangents, and it just it had a few issues for me personally in the story. Concept of the book, way over the top. Like it, great concept, perfect concept, minus the love story for me. Other than that, like this is the epitome of what a 1982 book should be. And it, knowing that this comic book propelled a character into a multi-billion-dollar franchise character, like how many comic books does this guy sell? He has like 3 or 4 solo titles every month. And so taking in all those factors, overall I gave it a 4.5, even higher. That was probably my highest grade today, right? It's for the overall, just because it all works so well at the right time with the right people and with the right character. So 4.5, was probably my highest mark. Deal?
Oh, I love it.
Pleasantly surprised by the book.
4.5. We did it.
We did it. We're through.
Nice.
Give a round of applause, everybody. Good job.
Kenny, you look like you're fading over there.
No, I'm chilling. I'm good.
I'm just chilling a little bit.
Sitting comfortably. Yeah. Yes, I hear you, Roger.
Roger.
Get to plug your phone in.
Roger. Well, maybe I should unmute him. No, I'm kidding. I didn't hear that.
No, we don't do chat vote for overall, Biggie. We just average the grades we have so far.
Yeah.
So
Big liked it, obviously. He gave it a full 5 for the overall.
Uh,
So,
Four overall.
Let's see, we got a 4, a 4, a 4, 5, and a 3, 5.
I think that's going to wash out at a 4.
Yep.
we all think it was a better than average book. It did have its problems, but basically pretty good. Pretty good read. Still holds up for the most part. And, except for maybe Claremont's dialogue doesn't as much. But
Oh, Roger's flashing the Horseman. Come on.
Flashing the Horseman.
Yeah, I think, when a book lands at a 4, that's, because I think of like 3. If you get like a 3, it's a little above average, 3.5. 4 is, it's a high quality book.
Oh,
it's not
yeah.
perfect,
It's
but
usually a book you want.
Because
Pretty
probably
good.
the average book out there is a 2, maybe a 2.5. So
yeah,
Yeah. Some of them are like zeros.
much better than serviceable for sure.
yeah. Well, everything after like 95 is all 0. But I mean, that's
Zero.
I hear that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
no, there's some new stuff that I've enjoyed, but
Yeah.
right, it's a different kind of writing nowadays as compared to like the Bronze Age. Right?
Yo, Big
Kind
Bubba.
of writing- like if you
Now
read
they're
Chris
rating
Claremont-
our score or our show in the chat.
The
if
show.
you try and read like a modern comic book written by Chris Claremont and written or drawn
Show
by
us
Frank
3.
Miller, they sound
Point
terrible. In modern comics,
I wouldn't want to write a comic book right now. So you can't say
Anyways.
nothing. What can you say? You can't say anything without bothering people. So what's the
yeah,
point?
I'm surprised they even let them use Gwy Jen in here.
I know.
For real. I mean, it was the 80s, but I guess Gwy Jen's not too racist.
It's just local slang.
It's just local slang. It's not like Gwy Lo. That's really racist. but that's Cantonese. Anyway, I lived in Vancouver for a long time. You learn to hear the different dialects. Um, Kenny, tell us what you got coming up, brother.
Well, it's your boy's pick for the next one. I know I told my boy D-Ronk that I was going to, because he sent me a book and he was like, Grader's Notes this book. And I'm like, I will. And I will. But it was X-Men Alpha 1, and I'm like, dude, we've been on a straight-up Wolverine X-Men tear. Let me have mercy on Genome. Genome might quit the show if I force this Wolverine on him anymore. So we're going to get that next time around. So this time around, I rummaged through. I was trying to think of something fun, something affordable also, just in case the homies in the viewer chat and the panel can pick it up on the cheap. And we got this. We're going to do Jack Kirby, Machine Man, The Living Robot, #1. Bam, his first solo series, right? So, yeah, man, we're going to do this. And, what's funny is I've had this book for a little bit. I picked it up, I think last year is where I picked this one up. But I haven't read it, actually. So I'm curious to. This is one I've been kind of meaning to crack open and read. I don't know a ton about Machine Man. And that's how we're rocking it, baby. Machine Man 1. You can find it on for like $5-10. And no, there's not a reprint. But it's not that expensive.
No, like I said, like we were talking earlier about it, it's not his first appearance. His first appearance is 2001: A Space Odyssey #8. I want to say I have a copy.
Yep, me too.
Looks kind of like a palette swap Blue Beetle almost.
But this is his first solo series, right? I think that's kind of an undervalued issue, to be honest. Like it's still a Bronze Age #1 from Jack Kirby.
Yeah, right. You can find it on the cheap.
Miracle's next video.
Oh, Don's got it clapped.
Yeah. Take up this book. I've actually had that one for a while, but I've never really put it on my undervalued books. But it's not super undervalued. I mean, it's not. I try and find a little more obscure stuff. So, brothers, that's our book for next time.
Yep.
Apparently, Roger was having some difficulty with his internet, so I'm glad that he actually made it as long through this and got through all the grades that he could. So
yeah, he's with us in the chat still. Great performance today, Metarog, as always.
Yeah, as always, you're always a solid performer, the rock of the group, as it were.
Yeah,
and
yeah, he's definitely the John Holmes of the panel.
What do you got coming up on your channel that you'd like people to know about out there?
Who'd you say, me or Gino?
You, but
me. What do I have coming up? Shit, man. There'll probably be a power hour Friday night. Tomorrow night. I haven't got a concept plan for it yet. I was tagged on a video YouTube contest by my boy Asian Funk, underrated channel. Asian Funk Comics tagged me in it's like a quiz. Are you really a comic nerd quiz? And pretty fun questions. It's cool. So I'm going to, when I get a chance to make like probably a pre-recorded video, I'm going to do that. So stay tuned. And don't forget about my contest, the Elseworlds What If contest. I want you to create your own What If Elseworlds concept. And you can either write it. I've been digging the written entries, actually, because I'm like reading it as a story. And I'm doing a recap. And if you put an entry in, I'm making a video and I'm going through the entry. So if you write one, I'm displaying it on the screen, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to do one of those soon. Recap of because I got some new nice entries. I'm going to do an entry tag thing for Asian Mega Power Hour. Boom. Stay tuned. And the next episode of this will be on my channel in 2 weeks.
Yes, that coming up too. That'll be on your channel. Well, that's cool. I like the concept of that contest. We'll look forward to seeing that video. David, sir, the mighty Gino, how about your channel? What do you got coming up, brother?
I was just thinking some of the criteria for that little contest. So if you think Captain Marvel is popular in comics, then you might not be a comic book reader. That would be one of the ones. But the channel, I actually took like a week and a half siesta where I didn't put much of anything up there. I had to recharge, man. I was getting burnt. I don't know what it was. Creative juices were ebbing, so I took a little break. But I'm back in the saddle again. Doing my music reviews again. Doing my comic book cover of the week. Uploaded that yesterday. Classic Cap cover from Streets of Poison days. I uploaded my next review in Star Trek Next Generation. I'm on Hide Q. I think it's the 6th or 7th one, whatever it was. Episode of season 1. What's that?
That's the one where Riker gets powers, right?
Yep, that's the one. Damn it to hell! But
Yeah.
believe me, that clip made it in there. So doing that. I'm still kind of working on some more interviews, but I'm not getting a lot of bites right now. So that could be a little bit ways down there. So I'm also probably gonna be doing a 400 subscribers contest here for too long. I need to. I'm getting close, so I just keep putting it off. I'm gonna have some original artwork, not from me, but from actual artists, up for grabs. So more on that here shortly. I'll let Metrog know the details so he can post it up on the posted note wall of Doom, and that's pretty much it for now.
Be funny though, some original artwork, a couple stickman on some computer paper, send it out. There you go.
I seen the original oil painting, but it takes them a while to dry, and yeah, it's not good.
Oh yeah, you were doing oil painting. I saw that on your chat. Was that?
Yeah, I did a how-to. I did an hour-long how-to and how to paint a landscape in oil. So I'm thinking about doing some more of those.
You just started?
Huh?
Like, is this something you just started?
About a year and a half ago, I started doing them. I just do them at work during lunch hours, for the most part. And
really, that you paint at work?
During lunch, I get a whole hour, so I can paint these things in like 30 minit's. It's crazy how fast. It's like the Bob Ross method and Bill Alexander. And once you learn it, you can just crank them out, dude. I can do a mountain in like 5 minutes. It's it's something. It's wet on wet, so it just moves. It's like almost like watercolors,
Yeah, I get the idea.
You just slam it in there. What is it?
Fire in. That's Bill Alexander. You got to
fire it in there. The almighty hand and the almighty breath.
Look at that son of a gun. Yeah, he's the Bavarian hero. But yeah, check out the channel if you want to see it. There's an hour-long segment on how to paint oil. I do one start to finish, tell you everything you need to do, and then show you a quick one. So if you, but yeah, so there's that too.
Well, and of course for me, I just put out an undervalued video a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So anybody wants to go ahead and check that out. And yeah, we'll have more stuff coming up. I got more. I got another undervalued video coming up here right away. I'll try and get a few in. I'm bored sitting here in quarantine anyway, because I can't do my stuff while my wife's working. So while she's doing her job, I'm just basically looking at my phone half the day.
I was going to ask if you guys could, like, increase YouTube productivity now that we're all on lockdown.
So. I got a little quarantine envy. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. That's made it worse then after a while, man.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'll tell you one thing. If I was stuck in the house, actual quarantine, my channel would be fucking prolific right now, bro. I'll be like Genome. I'll be making all kind of content about different things and everything. I'll be going nuts.
Well, I'm not quarantined. I'm not sick at all, and nobody's on, shelter in place here.
Oh no?
Yeah. No, we're not shelter in place here. We're required social distancing. They've closed down most public spaces, libraries.
That's just the Canadians just do the polite way to quarantine. That's the polite shelter in place. We recommend social distancing.
That's right.
Nice.
Just
I like your stuff.
Don't hug your neighbors. So basically, everybody has to stay like 2 meters away from everybody.
Well, Canadians are probably smart enough to get the hint, as opposed to down in, I'm not going to name any states, but in spite of spring, let's go to spring break. Let's all hang at the beach. Let's go to fucking a big church congregation and shake hands. And no.
You'd like to think that, but it was just as bad in Vancouver when the weather was nice. There was tons of people out. The RCMP have had to go around here and stop all kinds of house parties and people and stuff. It's just people don't learn, man. Stay away from each other for a few days. Fuck. Just stay away.
I recommend not showering. People will want to avoid you.
Built-in social distancing. I like it.
That's right.
My wife's my only company right now, and she's not going to want to be near me if I'm not showering.
I got a big house. They can go in the other rooms if they want. My wife, we each have our own office. I have my office / man cave. She has her own office and woman cave, and the little one's in the basement. We got a finished basement down there. She has basically the whole floor to herself. So I got the garage too, but I don't talk about that one.
You can have a big house.
I don't
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, come up and stay sometime. You'll like it. Down for you guys, I guess.
Yeah.
No
You'd
comic
have to
shops
go
around
with
here,
that.
but Spirit Comics says there's a couple LCSs I don't know about around here with actual back issues, so I have to go hunt those up when the lockdown lifts. I'm gonna go flesh out some of my Conan run.
All right, let's end this show. Let's get off the air here. Let everybody go back to, I don't know, watching TV or looking at their phone, which is what they are doing anyway right now. But we'll get off of here and do our own thing. Thanks everybody for coming and watching us here on Graders Notes. Madrog, thanks so much for your participation tonight and being on the channel. Sorry you're having some trouble with your internet. And yeah, any last words, guys? Anything you want to say?
No, just want to thank the chat for coming out and paying attention to us on this evening. Had a great turnout, great interaction. So, but we're okay. We love you. We love you. And thanks to my illustrious co-panelist here for another great show. I always look forward to these every 2 weeks, man. It's about the only live show I do.
Love you might be a bit strong, but
This has been Graders Notes. We're the best at what we do, and what we do is critique comics, bub.
very nice. All right. See you guys next time.